I call it radioactive Russian roulette.
Yeah.
And they want to start putting more bullets in the chambers of this gun that they're playing around with.
And that's not it, right? That's not just it. Like they have to store, once they start this back up, they have to store the nuclear waste, right? The water and all of those things that become contaminated, right?
Not The radioactive waste has piled up at Palisades since initial operations in 1971. There's different categories, but the one that gets the most attention is the highly radioactive waste, the irradiated nuclear fuel, and that is stored on site. 2/3 of it still in the indoor wet storage pool. That could lose its cooling and go up in flames, and that would be a mega catastrophe. It almost happened at Fukushima Daiichi Unit 4. It was averted through sheer luck. To give people an idea of how bad a pool fire could be, the Prime Minister of Japan, who was serving at the time, Naoto Kan, admitted later that he had a secret contingency plan to evacuate 35 to 50 million people from northeastern Japan, Metro Tokyo, if the Unit 4 pool had caught on fire. There's more waste in the Palisades pool than there was in Unit 4 at Fukushima.
Also new tonight, major developments in government investment, moving forward the restarting of the Palisades power plant. The Department of Energy confirming its next disbursement of $1.5 billion loans for this project. News Channel 3's Abigail Taylor is in Covert Township tonight with details about the plant's timeline.
A Holtec spokesperson tells us this money from the DOE is allowing hundreds of people to be hired here at the Palisades power plant as they prepare to reopen as early as October of this year. Hundreds of workers are back inside the Palisades power plant, all preparing for the plant's proposed return to producing nuclear energy in Covert Township.
We're on track to restart Palisades by October of this year.
Receiving a major financial boost from the Department of Energy. The plant just got approved to receive close to $57 million of its total $1.5 billion loan. A key factor in money that'll be used to continue the process of restarting the nuclear plant.
Has been occurring for some time, but in this day and age, it seems to be getting worse and worse and more imminent. We have Mr. Kevin Camps. He is a radioactive waste specialist with Beyond Nuclear. Thank you so much for being here, Mr. Camps.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. I know that you've dedicated your entire life to this work, and having you here to talk about it's super important to us and to our listeners.
Well, this just kind of represents what we've been dealing with at this plant, with the failing infrastructure here, and I also have this bucket because they've been using buckets to collect leaks in the control room, and so this is just a representational statement of our concerns about the radioactive mess.
It's a first of its kind for the United States, and to have it happening here in Covert Township, Van Buren County, is very special.
Culp says once operational, the plant will provide 800 megawatts of power and will restore 600 jobs to the community. Culp adding that this has a positive impact on the local economy, but moreover saying nuclear power is essential for the country's energy future. However, opposition to the restart remains vocal.
This entire restart scheme is quite fraudulent and abusive of taxpayer money.
Camps points to potential dangers associated
that they're creating here.
You have a vacation home, a second home here?
No, I live in Benton Harbor. I live almost equal distance between this plant and DC Cook.
Okay.
And my drinking water comes from Lake Michigan, so I'm really concerned with any radioactive release that goes into the lake. They claim that it's not dangerous and that it was a really low amount, but if they do these really low amounts every other month or whatever, and all of the plants on the Great Lakes do low-level amounts all of the time, then it becomes something more of an issue.
Okay.
Associated with nuclear power. Moreover, after 2 years of being shut down.
This reactor was a lemon from the start. It's now severely age degraded. It's a jalopy. It's highly risky to safety, health, security, the environment. It's insanely expensive for the public. And they're going to start making more waste again out there, which has nowhere to go.
Camps says his organization plans to stop the plant from reopening.
We're going to fight it with everything we have.
The future for supporters and opponents alike remains uncertain, as new developments are sure to come in the months ahead and pending approval of the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission. In Covert Township,
along the Lake Michigan shoreline in southwest Michigan.
Yeah, sure. So just for starters, I'm sitting in downtown Kalamazoo, so I apologize for any background noise, but we are 35 miles immediately downwind to the east from Palisades, which is located in Covert Township, Van Buren County, near South Haven. They designed the Palisades atomic reactor in the mid-1960s. They broke ground in 1967. It took 4 years to build the reactor. They fired up in 1971. It was a lemon from the get-go.
Yeah.
There was a lawsuit by Consumers Power at the time against the company that built the plant, Tel. It was a $300 million lawsuit, which is a lot of money in 1971 because it was such a lemon, brand new. They settled for a much smaller amount, fired up the reactor, had a very bad track record in the 1970s. They only had about a 50% capacity factor, which means they only ran about half the time they had promised to. And then, unfortunately, they've kept running up until 2022. I call it a zombie reactor. They've never restarted a closed reactor. We've dodged so many radioactive bullets over the decades. They had a very troubled operational record after Fukushima in 2011, which led to a groundswell of resistance again. There's been resistance the whole time, since before construction in 1967. But after 2011, 2012, when Palisades had some very serious incidents, people who'd never been involved before jumped in. We've been fighting it ever since. Unfortunately, the original license was supposed to expire first in 2007, after 40 years, 1967 to 2007. Then in 2011, because they got a 4-year mini extension, we fought them hard to prevent a 20-year extension to 2031. That's the license they claim to hold right now, out to 2031. They want to go to 2051 if they can restart the zombie reactor. And I'll just close by saying the history of the last 60 years of Palisades includes many of these systems that are vital to safety getting so old that they're at the brink of breakdown. There's about 6 major safety systems at Palisades, any one of which that breaks down could lead to a reactor core meltdown. And we can talk more about what the consequences of that would be.
That is thoroughly frightening to hear. I'm just imagining, because I've noticed that most of the reactors are sitting along waterways, just imagining the damage it would cause as it travels downstream to more and more areas where the reactor's not even located. But
and in Kalamazoo, where they've already been extremely harmed by energy practices and from the largest oil spill in American history. Indeed.
Could you tell us some of the immediate risks that are associated with the restart of the Palisades reactor, and why is it even being considered when it wasn't deemed safe or, workable from the beginning?
Right. And I should hasten to add, we talk a lot about the risks of a reactor core meltdown, which has not happened at Palisades, but some famous ones that people may have heard of. I already mentioned Fukushima Daiichi in Japan in 2011. That was a triple meltdown. 3 reactors melted down. Chernobyl in the Ukraine in 1986 is considered the worst reactor catastrophe in U.S. history. But there have been other ones, 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania, Fermi Unit 1 in southeastern Michigan in 1966, and the list goes on. But people haven't entirely missed the bullet. So Covert Township, Van Buren County, is a very large percentage of the population is African American. There's a rich African American cultural history in this township that goes all the way back to the Underground Railroad. There's I believe a majority of the population, at least a very high percentage, that also lives in low income. So the environmental justice aspects of this story can't be overstated. And there is cancer reported on the lakeshore, both childhood cancer and adult cancer. In fact, the immediate neighbors of Palisades, it's called the Palisades Park Country Club. It's a resort community of about 200 cottages. It's 120 years old. They report 50 thyroid cancers, 50 thyroid cancers in their community, which is a part-time community. Most people are only there in the warm weather. Peak summertime population of around 2,000 to 3,000. There should not be a single thyroid cancer in that community. It's a very rare disease. So the likely culprit is Palisades, and this disease epidemic is being ignored by the federal government, the state government. So all of that is from past operations, past radioactive releases into the environment. You asked about the immediate risks. The good news is the reactor's not been operating since May 20th of 2022. The problem is they plan to restart it. They say by October of this year. To do that would be taking very extreme safety risks. The issue that's getting the most attention right now are what are called steam generators. It's a heat transfer component, but it has a direct pathway to the reactor core. It was already severely degraded, if you can believe this, by the year 2006. The previous owner, Consumers Energy now, told the Michigan Public Service Commission, we really need to replace the steam generators. And by the way, we don't want to spend that kind of money, so we're going to sell the plant, which they did, to Entergy, which ran it from 2007 to 2022. Never replaced the steam generators because this captured federal
It's just an accident waiting to happen.
Nuclear Regulatory
Absolutely.
Commission didn't require it, and is still not requiring it.
And they're the ones that are supposed to protect us.
I'm sorry, Holtec, who now owns Palisades, made matters worse by neglecting safety maintenance. When they got a hold of it in 2022, they didn't do safety maintenance for 2 years, even though our expert witness, Arnie Gunderson, warned them, if you plan on restarting this reactor, you have to maintain the steam generators. They did not do so. The corrosion accelerated. Now this critical safety issue is so much worse now. But as I mentioned, there's other ones out there, any one of which breaks down, we could have a reactor core meltdown on the Lake Michigan shoreline. They want to start taking those extreme risks this October. So there's the risk of the pool fire. The overflow parking is outdoor dry cask storage. That's been controversial at Palisades since it first started in 1993. It's actually in violation of earthquake safety regulations because they built the dry cask storage on the sand dunes with 55 feet of loose sand underneath. It's not anchored to anything. Even a mild earthquake could open up the beach. The lake could fill the void. The high-level radioactive waste containers could fall into Lake Michigan. There's enough fissile material in the waste that you could even have an inadvertent chain reaction on the bottom of Lake Michigan. And then if they ever get away with shipping the waste out, as dangerous as it is where it's at, they want to open the world's largest radioactive waste dump in southeastern New Mexico, which is a majority minority state, majority Latinx and indigenous population. That's where Holtec
Those
wants
people
to take
don't matter as far as
its
they're
own
concerned.
waste, but that from other companies around the country. They would use barges on Lake Michigan for Palisades waste, barge it up to Muskegon, put it on a train, bring it back through Michigan out west. Wisconsin reactors want a barge. There may be other reactors on the Great Lakes that want a barge. That is extremely high risk shipments of high level radioactive waste. We call it mobile Chernobyl. We call it floating Fukushima. Mobile Chernobyl. We call it floating Fukushima.